All right, hello everyone. This is Rob Akins from the Delaware ACCEL program. Today I'd like to talk to you about mentoring plans and individual development plans. Let me get this started. So there's, I think, a generally well understood appreciation for mentoring. And there are data indicating that mentoring and having successful mentoring programs really at all increase productivity and job satisfaction. And for junior investigators and people that are new to their programs or institutions, it gives them an enhanced sense of fit and there's higher retention. But for the bigger programs, an initiative like ACCEL, which is spanning multiple institutions across the whole state of Delaware, and in collaboration with institutions in South Carolina, we have a need to understand how things are working and be able to better track. So what I want to talk about is mentoring plans first, and then we'll talk about IDPs, which fit under mentoring, the individual development plans generically. And then at the end, we'll go and actually look at one that I mocked in IDP and make sure that folks who are watching this know how to clone their, enter the information, what we're looking for, and how they can avoid having to enter the same thing multiple times. And if you have questions along the way, please let me know, but there will be Q&A at the end. So multiple mentors is one of the, it's not really an issue, but it's one of the main ways that people are able to support their careers, and it's the main way that institutions are supporting people. Investigators, junior and senior investigators, wear more than one hat. And we, especially clinician scientists, get evaluated in more than one area of expertise. So there's research, depending on what your role is and where you fit into the organization, research, teaching, your clinical responsibilities, patient care, administration, community outreach. So really one mentor cannot do it all, or really can't be expected to have the time to do all of that. And different mentors can help with different aspects of an investigator's job. And really the role for the mentors and for the mentoring programs and the development programs that we're building is to try to help junior investigators reach their full potential. So in having multiple mentors in particular, and in the context of broad programs like ACCEL, we really want to try to be able to track and be able to specifically articulate mentoring plans. So that's a desire on our part. Some institutions, and NSF is really adamant about this, require mentoring plans as you submit. So proposal, this is from NSF. You don't have a section on mentoring in your NSF proposal, you don't even get reviewed. So the days of sort of getting a review and trusting that the mentor and the mentee will work things out are gone from NSF's perspective. And in fact, they require, I wish I could move this. I can't. So all postdoctoral researchers who are supported by a project, whether or not they're even at the submitting organization, if they're participating, they're required to have a mentoring plan. And I won't go to these links. The only link I'll go to is the ACCEL link for an IDP. So we can look at what the interface and what the dashboards look like. These slides will be available through the ACCEL website, and Erin will make them available. In fact, if you want them to email them to you, her to email them to you, just shoot her an email and she'd be happy to do that. So NSF is adamant, and NIH is getting more so about mentoring plans. Examples of what to cover in mentoring plans as you're submitting these grants. So this is a talk for mentors, whether you're new to the game or you've been around for a while. But some of the things that are expected to be covered in the mentoring plans is career counseling, training, and this is something we all focus on, the grant proposals, publications, and presentations, but also some of the key things and some of the things that get mentoring plans better reviewed or if you talk about how you'll guide an improvement of teaching and mentoring skills, so how your junior person will learn to train other people, how to effectively collaborate, and the development of negotiation skills, which has been a key, identified as a key need for junior scientists, again, especially for clinical and translational researchers, and helping them understand their strategies for advancement within their division. in training and responsible professional practices and the responsible conduct of research. So in setting up a mentoring plan, these are just examples of some of the things that reviewers expect to see and that are good things to include. FASEB has additional information. We were talking about NSF. FASEB has a whole portal on mentoring plans, and a few years ago, and I think continuing, FASEB did a lot of work in developing concepts for mentoring plans and IDPs. And we'll talk about some of Jennifer Hogan's work in a little bit when we talk about IDPs. But their portal has specific examples and samples. So if you're a relatively new mentor and you're not quite sure what to put in or what to think about in your mentoring plan, there's some examples there. And I have one here. So this is just, I hope you can see the bolding. This is just a sample from FASEB. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I did was highlight to my eye the things that this mentoring plan includes. And if you think back to the list of things that you should include, they hit on a lot of the points. And it doesn't obviously have to be long. So in 2 paragraphs, this example talked about training and testing hypotheses, specified developing expertise, and that would be specific to your trainee or the person that you're working with, knowledge of the scientific literature, and in fact, evaluation of scientific literature is something strong to put into mentoring plans, helping them with orientation to the institution where they're working, connecting them with career development seminars. So these are the things that I highlighted in that specific example. Connecting them with institutional support. So whether that's training grants, depending on your institution, or things like we have through the ACCEL program, pilot grants and other workshops, courses, certificates, and presentations. And then they talk, and this is highly recommended, and one of the reasons we ask for mentoring plans through ACCEL is how they will communicate. And they talk about the AAMC Compact, which I'll show you in a second, or I'll give you the link for it. And that's a specific articulation of here's how we're going to work together, that they'll help with writing and speaking opportunities and advocate for the mentee. They'll use individual development plans and provide integration of their multiple mentors. So my describing all of what was in those 2 paragraphs actually took longer than the 2 paragraphs. So the plan doesn't have to be long, but the thought that goes behind the plan and what you include and what you articulate for the people that are reviewing so that they know what's going to happen with the junior investigator are critical. And I suggest FASEB has other samples that are out there on that linked website. The compact, I don't think I have the actual compact here. There's the American Academy of Medical Colleges. I forget what the AA stands for, but it's the American Association of American Academy of Medical Colleges. They have a compact between postdoctoral appointees and mentors, which is fantastic. We've adapted that. So the MRDA program, and I'm not specifically going to talk about the programs at ACCEL, but some of the work that we do, we have sample compacts available online. So there's a PDF, if you go to this link that's up here, that has a faculty mentoring compact that's based on the layout of what AAMC came up with and postdocs. And again, for some people in ACCEL in particular, and now with IMBRI, if you're getting money from those institutions, you'll have to use these templates or these compacts and mentoring plans. We ask for a lot of information. So I know some of the people on the phone have gone to our website, the ACCEL website, and filled out mentoring plans. That interface is changing with lots of colorful, sometimes and very helpful feedback from senior investigators. But one of the reasons, I wanted to let people know, one of the reasons we ask for the information we do, and in mentoring plans, we ask for some information about the mentor and their previous mentees, and that's the part of the interface that's changing and who they're mentoring now. But one of the things we want to be able to do is start developing what our networks look like. And this idea comes from overall concepts of how you evaluate larger programs like ACCEL. and whether or not the provision of pilot grants and this mentoring support or the infrastructure and training programs has an effect. So this is a cross-institutional map, and this was prepared, I should say, by Kathy Wu in the informatics group down at Delaware Biotechnology Institute, University of Delaware, based on data I gave to her from applications that had come in recently. So I used a clean data set that had mentors and mentees and how they were linked together. It was INBRI, so the INBRI in Delaware focuses on themes, cancer, cardiovascular, and neuroscience. So what I'd asked her for was some way that I can see what our network looks like now, and as we go forward with our programs, what our networks look like later. So these data are from that, but the network on the left, each one of these nodes is an individual whose name is here. The shape of the node indicates their role. So Dr. Chagani, who's actually sitting here, has a star because she was a group team leader. The circles are the junior investigators and the triangles are mentors. So some of the things we're looking at is how many people are supported, how big are these networks, how many connections do the junior investigators have? And again, this is a limited data set, so junior investigators are typically only attached to one or two people, but in the broader data that we're getting from those interfaces, we're trying to see what that network looks like. And in particular, we're looking for specific information and evaluations. So the grayed out stuff that's at the top of this slide, those are things that we're counting and tracking, the things that you could think of, how many assessments are completed, what kind of grants are submitted and awarded. The cross-institutional team science information that we're trying to get is nodes. Again, nodes are people with two or more connections. That's what we're counting now, and we'll revisit how we're counting things. An individual network. So if we are interested in a junior investigator, let me go back one here. We're interested in let's say Jessica Tanis, who's down at the University of Delaware, what her network looks like and whether or not, under the guidance of these programs, she's increasing the support network that she has. One of the ways that we get that is by looking at her network and how many nodes and connections are in it. And in particular, we're interested in these cross-institutional linkages, which is why we asked for some information about the people that mentors are working with. So that's, I'm not going to go to that interface. It's being updated now as we speak. The IDP one is pretty much set, but the mentoring plan one is getting updated. Steve DiDonato, for those of you who know him, they had a baby, so he's off the hook for getting the rest of the programming done. And we're all very happy for him. But the reason we asked for all that information, I want to make that clear. And going forward, I would love to have conversations about how to assess these bigger programs and how to integrate sort of what we're doing in a way where we only have to ask the question one time and then share that information across platforms. All right, now we're going to talk about individual development plans. And IDPs were mentioned. They were mentioned in some of the mentoring plans, but an IDP focuses specifically, obviously, on the individual. A lot of work has been done for individual development plans for students, graduate students in particular, and fellows, and how they're mapping out their career trajectories and making sure they can move ahead with what their long-term goals are. For faculty, it's the same thing, and in fact, there are lots of data, and I think I mentioned some of those data later on in these slides. For anyone, having an individual development plan is extremely helpful. It's also strongly encouraged. This is still, I believe, the current language from NIGMS. There is more and more of a sort of a sense that this is a requirement, that people who are supported on any kind of training or research award have some mechanism of individual development planning in place. And they are valuable just at any stage. These are two links. The one up above we'll go to at the very end here. So the things that are DECTR, that's the Clinical and Translational Research Program here. So this is survey through REDCap. The My IDP is AAAS. I think they're still the overall sponsors. It's an online website that does an evaluation and an assessment of career goals and then provides information. And I was one of the first people to do one of these years ago. I think they were beta testing and I still get ticklers every 3 months that I have to go in and update my IDP. But that's primarily on the primary focus of these are fellows. The one that we've iterated here at Nemours, which we repurposed from Medical University of South Carolina and some of Gerard Silvestri's work, is toward faculty. But I want to talk a little bit about some of Jennifer Hogan's work on IDPs. And she was one of the main architects of the FASTHEB initiatives that were built into the AAAS interface. And there is it's a PowerPoint, I guess, in the form of a PDF that she's made available online around career planning. So I just extracted some of her slides, so the link is there. So individual development plans are just tools to help focus the efforts, especially between mentors and their trainees or their proteges, on the individual skills and interests for that person. It helps the individual kind of explore its career opportunities. In Hogan's slides, her main point there had to do with the fellows. So for faculty, we more think about their trajectories as they're moving up through their departments, and allows specific identification of skills that need to be developed, and a plan, like a clearly articulated plan with objectives that can be worked on. And really the big benefit of doing an IDP is having a clear plan or specific objectives, so that as you meet, so if you're meeting with someone quarterly to help them along their career path, or monthly, that you can go back and look at their IDP and see how they've done, and then talk specifically about that objective. But they're extraordinarily helpful. NIH encourages IDPs. I showed the NIGMS statement, and more in RFAs and PAs that are coming out, they're requiring that IDPs be used. There's tons of information. So this is some of the data that IDPs in planning actually enhances performance. So this is, it's not news to anyone, but the act of actually sitting down and writing a plan is beneficial. And there's more than 10,000 papers on goal setting and performance. It gets trainees, and again, this is for, as a mentor, you're trying to figure out how to help the person that's sitting across the desk from you. But it gets them to think about their goals and actually motivates them to pursue those goals and the objectives that will help them reach that goal. And it, in the long run, leads to higher salaries, more promotions that come sooner, overall more responsibility in terms of your academic involvement with your institution. And a big thing for us that the data show that it's greater satisfaction. So using an IDP leads to happier, better, and more productive junior investigators. This is the interface that when you go to the My IDP that Science AAAS offers, and you just click on the link. So if you're a first-time user, there will be a bunch of questions. And again, this would be for fellows, or if you are a fellow, for you. But as your fellows come in, to take a look at this, and it asks questions about their overall interests. And if you're not interested in teaching, but you are interested in bench research, the IDP system that AAAS uses tracks that and actually uses that information further on in the interactions with the fellow. The process is circular or it's iterative, and we try to encourage people to just get an IDP started and then use that as a tool, realizing that it's going to change. So this is again from Jen Hogan's PDF that she had posted. The individual needs to do sort of a self-assessment of what they really want. That's the goal, is to help them get to where they want to be and their goals. This wording is slightly different for faculty, but for fellows, there's a phase about career exploration. What do those long-term goals really mean, and how can I get to those goals, those long-term interests? And then you set this. She uses the term goals, and I think I actually did that inadvertently in some of the documents that I have. Really, this means objectives. So there should be a concrete plan. I want to get tenured by a year early. What is it? What do I have to do to get there? Or I want to get promoted to this, or I want to get this type of grant. In order to get there, you need your publications. You have to come up with who your letters of recommendation are going to come from. Something that's clearly articulated, and the clearer, the better. With some of the clinicians that I work with, we try to get a date. I will get my draft abstract to Dr. Akins by such and such a date, so that it's that clear. Realizing that you can't always reach those objectives, but having the junior investigator think about their objectives, try to do it, and then sort of do a debrief on what happened, or why didn't that happen, so that as they iterate through the process, they get better and better at identifying achievable objectives. Then you implement the plan, they go and do it, and then come back. There's a sort of an assessment that happens. And in the interface along the way, the fellows can submit their IDP. Suggested steps, especially for us, and some key things that are embedded into Jen Hogan's work. And this is abstracted. There's a lot of helpful information that you can find, but there's a blog. I forget what the TV stands for. I'm sorry, but the Making Your IDP Work for You. But the keys are meaningful targets. A young investigator that has a goal or a short-term goal that doesn't help with their long-term goal, you might want to counsel them on how to think about that. If they really want to get their tenure or their promotion a year early, rethink about what the goals are. Make sure that there's meaningful targets there, that the action items or the objectives are defined, so that you as the mentor and the individual you're helping know whether or not the action has been completed. There's no sort of wishy-washy area. Make sure that you help the investigator, the junior investigator, identify available resources for what they want to do. And they're in sort of the disseminated way, or the way that Delaware is set up. We have access to lots of resources that aren't under the roof here. For example, I'm sitting at the Children's Hospital in Wilmington, but I know of equipment and core facilities that are available about 20 minutes away at the Delaware Biotechnology Institute. A new investigator who just walked in the door doesn't necessarily know that. So that's part of your responsibility. And then measure it. The best IDPs are very simple, specific, and adaptable. And I suggest encouraging the mentee or your protege that we're going to measure these things. And it's okay to not meet the objective. It's not okay to not try or to not participate in sort of their own development, but that we need to figure out, and I use checkboxes sometimes, did they do it or not? And just keep track of how they're doing or how their timelines are going, and are they reaching their hallmarks? But the measurements are critical, because that's how we can evaluate how things are going and help improve processes down the road. All right, so that's IDPs, mentoring plans and IDPs. One of the things I want to do is go to the ACCEL website. So I skipped a step. I'm hoping that everyone who's on the call has an ACCEL login. If not, at the very end, I'll back out and I'll show you how to get one of those. But when you log into ACCEL, now you go to a dashboard. So this is my dashboard, which looks horrendous because I have multiple responsibilities. But the dashboard will populate any action items that are pending. I made sure mine were all cleared before I got to this. Your specific activity, the groups that you're affiliated with. So if you want to look at the leadership team and what their most recent information, you can click on those. But the key for these assessments and the IDPs and mentoring plans and the other assessments that we do is they're all in the MedCore tools. So generically, if you click on this button up here, you can get to the whole set of MedCore tools. Specifically, we're talking about IDPs, so I just click on the MedCore assessments. Okay, and actually, I meant to say this before we go there. The left-hand side is a broader navigation. So things like the funding opportunities. If you're trying to find information about research retreat programs, this will click. Let's see if I can do this. The tab. and just take you directly to that site so you don't have to hunt around and actually start populating the information that we know about into the forms. And we're trying to do more and more of that with Dan Eckrich, so that things we already know, you don't have to tell us again. But from the dashboard, if you want to go to look at your IDPs, I just put in two mock. I didn't want to use actual data, although this is an actual person. So I can open the IDP from Stephanie and I that we put. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the mentoring plan that Stephanie and I put together. That's why I lied to you earlier.
Do you have her permission?
Yes. I'm going to ask her right after this to put her name here. That was Diane Chigani asking me. So Stephanie's a graduate student in my lab. So this has all the information in it that we put in. And as much as we put in, it's all there. And by logging in and clicking on it, we can see this. One of the key things I wanted to show you guys, and we've been showing people kind of ad hoc, as one, you can offload this information. I like to work on hard copy, especially during meetings, but you can also clone it. So this thing back here, it's multiple copies. If you click that, yes, all of the information, and there's more information sort of behind the scenes, repopulates into a new form. So when you first go in to submit a mentoring plan, you're asked to enter all this information. But with that cloning tool, all the information is automatically repopulated. So we're working on we'll have all the data for people that have entered it, and we'll sustain this functionality so that you can clone your mentoring plans. But we're trying to make it simple so that the key information you can just go in and edit and alter. If it's a different person or you're altering the mentoring plan, it becomes much simpler to do. So if I were to change this now, I have to go over through page through again. I'm not changing anything else. Submit it. Right there. I go back to my dashboard. And I remember these were, I'm sorry, I'm going through quickly. So you could get there through through the MedCore tools. When I go back to my assessments, there's a third one that automatically populates in there. So the Not Jaeger is a new one. So the interface is getting simpler and simpler to use. When we first started, it was just REDCap, and the links were complicated. And getting back to something you had worked on required that you maintain a code, like a 10-digit alphanumeric code that's really difficult to keep track of. So this system is much more user-friendly. And as we move into the pilots are now being considered for ACCEL. I think those were closed. Yeah, those were submitted by the 18th, and the INBRI has their pilots. So we will hopefully have more than 20 new pilot investigators starting, and I'm hoping some of their mentors are online, that we want to use these tools and some of the other ones that I didn't talk about, since this was specific to IDPs and mentoring plans with that group. So hopefully all this cloning and this ability to interact with the system helps simplify all that. All right, so that is what I had prepared to talk about. I think I did pretty good, right, Aaron, in timing. Where the recording, this part's going to be edited out, but the recording will be posted, and we'll review it. And if I have to re-record some of it, I will. But I'd like to open to any questions or discussion. See who's on here. I do that. Aaron told me that the junior people, oh, you're starting to hang up already, don't do that. But the junior people are difficult to pull out information from. So I would like to, if there's questions or comments or suggestions, I'd like to open the floor now. And I, in particular, encourage the junior investigators who are just getting started to chime in if they have any questions. If you're muted, either let Aaron know you want to talk, or I think you can push your space bar to be able to talk. I'm going to call on people because I can see your names. So Mike, Mike McCulloch. You there?
Yep.
So you've been through as an INBRI investigator, and I'm not sure when you joined, but have you used the IDP system?
No, I haven't. It makes sense.
So as you go through, we want to try to encourage people to do that. So now that you're a successful investigator and you have fellows and students reporting to you, do you think you would use the IDP system we have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially with fellows who have, clear requirements that they have to meet. It makes it easier to kind of hold them accountable and have them have a system that they can clearly track.
Yeah, and so as you go through and you can talk to me and Aaron or the group as these meetings occur, I would love to hear feedback about how that works. I know the cardiologist, so Mike's a cardiologist who works in the cardiac center here and has been a funded investigator with pilot grants and is sort of moving up through our ranks of investigators. But they have a relatively new fellowship program. So I think they have 2. You're going to get your 3rd one.
No, our 3rd one just started.
Right. So they're one of the reasons I called on him is that I want to encourage cardiology as much as possible as we can support them, but to use these kinds of programs. And they've expressed through Mike and through Gina Baffa, who I think is the preceptor for the fellows, a willingness and an interest in trying to figure out how to support their fellowship program as much as possible. So that's great. There are a few MUSC folks who are online. So I saw Dan and I think Mark. And I know in some ways with the CTSA, I think your IDP interface has changed. We're still using essentially Silvestri's model, and we have some data on that. Is there anyone that can comment on the changes in the IDPs?
Rob, Dan here. I think this is good. I think there's a little bit of it in the sense that you're beginning to bring in more things like team science and those kinds of things that historically weren't really kind of recognized, but it's really kind of just more of clarity and some additions that are there too. And I knew we need to have some we can have some further discussion, but we've tried to in our MSCR offerings have tried to offer some insights in developing that as well. And I suspect Mark may have some additional comments.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mark.
Okay, thanks. So you heard me eating whilst you were talking, Rob?
No, Aaron with Blue Jeans, Aaron can silence that. So okay. we did not hear you eating.
Great talk. So we don't use Gerard's exactly because Gerard's, you have to understand his was developed really for a department that included people on different tracks, including a lot of clinician educators. And so we kind of made one that was more focused on researchers. Mm-hmm. So we have our IDP is not exactly the same as Gerard's because it's largely focused on research-oriented. Obviously, other aspects of a person's career too, but more focused on the research components. Mm-hmm. It's actually one that we have kind of adapted from another CTSA that we use for our case scholars.
Yeah, I think you sent me that a while ago, maybe during submission or something, and it's on our to-do list to put that into REDCap. I'm not sure if you've done that yet, so that we can use, or people that want to can use that as an interface. And we tend to use REDCap because it centralizes the data, and we're across multiple institutions, so it makes it a lot simpler. I showed you a figure that Kathy Wu put together down at VBI. All we did was I gave her access to the data in the database, and she was able to use it that way. it's been very successful for us. So I know
Actually, I don't know if ours is on RECAP, to be honest. I'll have to check on that.
if it's not, we'll try to put it in and we can share it back with you guys.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. That was Dan Lackland first, and he mentioned the MSCR, which is the Masters of Science in Clinical Research program that MUSC offers. And we can talk more, especially the junior investigators, more about the opportunities that program offers. And Mark Chimwitz, and they're both from Medical University of South Carolina. All right, are there any other questions or comments or conversations? All right, so Aaron, we'll review this. Aaron's sitting in the other room, so we'll review this, and if it needs to be re-recorded, I will. And if anyone has other questions or anything about the
You actually have a question by chat.
I saw that, but didn't I?
So if you go up to you and go over, see that little box within a box?
This thing?
Yeah. But I think, so can ID forms be printed?
They can. So does that match the Google Elmo? Okay.
I think so.
You can print the IDPs. Oh, now you're gonna have to see that. I don't want to go to an IDP because I did not talk. These are mock-ups, but it's the same way that you can enter into a mentoring plan. You can enter into an IDP, and then this will allow you to download. Now, that's supposed to allow you to download. It just kicked me into another. Oh, here. I probably do that. Right. So it comes out as a PDF in tabular format. So what I've done for this kind of information, if you want to append this as an example of the IDPs and the questions that are asked, you can. But and if you don't have access to the software, you can convert this into a Word document to manipulate it, or be able to copy and paste the information out. But within the ACCEL interface, you have an opportunity to download or to clone any of the tools that we ask people to fill out. That's a good question. And Matt, if you have more specific information that you would like to have, let me know, and I'd be happy to go through it. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I think this has been, hopefully this has been a useful presentation, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon. As summer wraps up, we'll be back on for the Junior Investigators Network, back on our monthly, and for Mentoring the Mentor, sort of this, helping people transition from being investigators to being sort of senior investigators with mentees. We'll still meet quarterly going forward. But I hope everyone's having a great summer, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Excellent. Good call.
All right. Thank you.